morning, everyone. I'm Jackie DeAngelis in for Maria Bartiromo. It is January 25th, 8 a.m. on the East Coast. Texas Governor Greg Abbott not backing down, declaring his state has the right to self-defense after the Supreme Court ruled the Biden administration can remove razor wire installed by the state's National Guard along the southern border. Abbott writing, quote, "I have already declared an invasion to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes." The governor's fight against the Biden administration receiving support from at least 6 Republican governors so far, all announcing they back his border actions, blaming Biden for the crisis. However, Texas Democrat Joaquin Castro is calling on President Biden to, quote, "establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard now," claiming Abbott is using the Guard to obstruct and create chaos at the border. Joining me now is Virginia Congressman Ben Cline. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, good morning to you. Reaction to everything on the border so far?
Well, it's ridiculous to claim that a Texas governor can't use his own National Guard for the self-defense of his own state. So we are in support of Governor Abbott's actions. We think that it's a misread of the Constitution and of federal law to interfere legally with a state's right to defend itself. So I hope that, and my governor, Glenn Youngkin, is actually out in front supporting this action as well. So we hope that we can resolve this in a way that enables Texas to defend its border and defend not only Texas citizens, but all citizens, including those here in my home state of Virginia.
When President Biden acknowledges finally that we've got a problem at the border, yet he's saying that he needs money to fix it, you start to realize there are politics involved with this border issue. This isn't really about national security. It's not about immigration in this country. It's a money grab. It's a shakedown. It's I'll do this if you give me money for that.
What he's accusing us of is not providing him with money when, in fact, what's necessary is to change our policies. What he wants to do is just spend more federal dollars on an already broken system, implicitly admitting that he supports the existing system. He supports the millions who are coming across the border, bringing drugs, human trafficking, sex trafficking, turning every community into a border community. And so when he just asks for more money for judges, that's what he is asking for, more funding for the current system. We want to change the system, change our asylum laws, reinstate Remain in Mexico, return to the Trump era policies, and actually secure the border and protect our national security and our people.
Yeah, you're referring to one aspect of the money is the money he's asking for the border. There's also the other aspect, which is that he would like to tie Ukraine aid and Israel aid to border policies, also intimating that he'll give a little if he gets what he wants on the other side of it. But let's move on to this, Congressman, because Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is reportedly now open to keeping a border policy deal separate from that additional Ukraine aid. So McConnell is telling senators in this closed-door meeting that they're, quote, in a quandary because former President Trump, the party's likely presidential nominee, will oppose that border deal. The Biden administration commenting on the border negotiations, claiming they're taking it very seriously. Listen to this.
One of the reasons that the president is having these negotiation procedures or process with the Senate, with both Republicans and Democrat, as I've said many times before, is because we want to deal with what's going on at the border. He's taken this very seriously. So we're doing what we can, right, at the border. DHS is maximizing their process, doing what they can at the border.
Okay, so she's at the podium, Congressman, and she's lying again because they're not doing anything at the border. Yet we've still got another year under President Biden, and already 8 to 10 million people have come into this country illegally. I'm not sure the country can withstand or afford another year of this.
No, the country can't stand one more year of Joe Biden's presidency. And it's important to remember, not only is 8 million illegals the number that's come across, as large as the state of Virginia's population, so the entire Commonwealth of Virginia, the population has come across the border since Joe Biden's presidency. But what you're seeing is Joe Biden essentially asking for more money, and the laws haven't changed. You know, when President Trump was in office, he managed to secure our border. Joe Biden hasn't seen any laws change. but can't seem to change our policies. So we really do need to move back to the Trump era policies, remain in Mexico, and not just be a catch and release system into the interior of our country.
Yeah.
And no amount of money is going to fix that.
You find someone here illegally, you send them home, Congressman. Meantime, Hunter Biden's business associates gearing up for a closed-door testimony in front of the House Judiciary Committee starting today. Marvin Yan, who worked with Hunter through the Chinese energy companies CEFC, and Hudson West III, expected to appear this afternoon. Congressman, what are you hoping to learn from some of these interviews as you're trying to piece together the relationships that Hunter had with different international companies and how possibly his father might have been involved or even benefited from those dealings?
Well, what we're seeing is when Joe Biden said he has no business with the Chinese and his family had no business with the Chinese, that he was lying. And so we followed the trail of text messages, emails, calls that connect Hunter Biden to James Biden, Joe Biden's brother, to funding coming from Chinese-supported entities that actually we have followed the trail of money. And we're just verifying that with the business partners as we wrap up this impeachment investigation. It's nearing a conclusion. We have massive amounts of evidence that will be presented to not only the Judiciary Committee, but also the American people. And we'll follow the facts where they lead.
All right. Congressman Ben Cline, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time this morning.